Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, my friends? You know what's popping today? There you go. What's cracking? What's popping? What do I usually say? I don't remember.
Either or.
I feel like I just should do like a montage of like the last year of us saying what's popping at the beginning of it. What's popping.
It would just prove the theory of the same sweatshirt.
Yeah, dude. So right. I walked into my family's house on Sunday, and my brother's wife literally walked in, saw me, and said, "What's cracking?" And I didn't know what to say because I was like, "That's my."
She stole your lingo.
That's like and then I was like, I had to say what's popping. I had to go to the secondary one. Stupid.
What's cracking? What's popping?
What's cracking?
It's kind of a weird response.
It really is. Like, what's popping? I don't know. I say that to my wife in the morning when I text her.
Not a flex.
No, it's not. It's not at all. She's like,
what are you talking about?
Freaking don't text me until 9. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Anyway, welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. This is Rick Lemon.
What's up?
We just spent like we turned on all our equipment, started recording, and I was like, okay, we're gonna record. And then what were we even talking about? Yelling at each other about Adam Trotman and
Cole Kmet.
some deep conversations about tight ends. That's a great segue into what we're going to talk about today. The final episode of the most consistent players here.
Consistency chat.
We're going to talk about the most consistent tight ends. The most consistent tight ends in fantasy football.
Yeah.
2020. So we'll jump into that in a second. Before we do that, check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the FF Champs on Twitter, at the Fantasy Champions on Instagram. Follow us at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform, please leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, what are they going to do?
Subscribe.
What else should they do?
Like and follow.
Comment. Follow on YouTube.
Bro, you just put me in bad situations.
I try. Comment down below anything you have to say about this episode. What should they comment?
Comment. Bro? Yeah, nice new sweatshirt, Morgan.
It's literally the same one from Tuesday.
Nice new sweatshirt, loser.
Yeah, so anyway, let's jump into
I don't care about your advice. I'm taking Travis Kelsey first overall.
First round pick.
Kelsey in the first, Mahomes in the second, and then I'm going to take a second quarterback in the third to make sure my quarterback room is good.
He lives in New England, and he does this Boston accent. And I'm like, do you have a Boston accent?
No. Does it sound like I have a Boston accent?
No.
You don't have a Boston accent either.
I try not to, but sometimes it comes out.
You get mad. You're like, Pocky car. Pocky car. It's a whole different show.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the most consistent tight ends today. As I said, most consistent TE is probably best for the YouTube SEO. But anyway.
Okay.
Minimum of 12 games. We said this before. We'll say it again, minimum of 12 games. I'm really in on that because I was going to tell you guys what we were going to talk about next week. So our plan is to talk about some rookies, get some rookies out of the way, do some analysis. We're going to try to do like a abbreviated breakdown of 56 players that we want to talk about. That's what I'm saying.
Watch more film.
We originally were going to do quarterbacks, tight ends, same episode on Tuesday, and then I was like, crap, I got to do research on running backs for Dynasty, and then
push it back.
So I don't feel like talking. I feel like scouting takes like a lot of work.
I already have some takes, but I'll save it for our rookie show. Right.
But I was thinking maybe we do some early rankings.
Yeah, we could do that.
We could do them like both next week. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens. But minimum of 12 games, tight ends.
Yep.
This is probably save the worst for last.
This show shouldn't be too long.
It really shouldn't. Travis Kelsey is
number one.
It's
essentially a wide receiver.
If you had a question about whether or not that was the case,
it is not even close. How much better?
Okay. Number two, number one, 7 points or more is what we're basing this off of
for quality.
93% of the time. 14 games he did it in. He had one bust game, which was I think the last week of the season, or the first week of the season, can't remember.
It was something like that.
I think it was the first week against Chicago. But could be wrong about that. They didn't play Chicago. Jeez, what am I saying?
They played Houston.
And then he had 3 games where he had just a quality performance, 6.5 to 11 fantasy points. 11 games where he finished with 11 points or more.
In week 7 against Denver, he had 6.1.
Okay, yeah, it's always against Denver. 93% of the time, he finished as a tight end 1 or greater. I don't know what else to say about that other than it's Travis Kelsey. I will say this: we're probably going to move into Darren Waller pretty quick, but he was 69% of the time number 2. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about him in a second. And Travis Kelsey was 93.
Most years,
what is that, like a 20?
We always say
like math because I don't want to.
Kelsey, don't take Kelsey. It's
28% point.
The tight end position is not a huge advantage.
Difference.
This year, it kind of was, just for Travis Kelsey, which is going to make people freak out and take Kelsey in the first round, which is horrible and a horrible idea.
We know Travis Kelsey is good, so let's spend the next 5 minutes talking about why you shouldn't draft Travis Kelsey in the first round.
We always do this. But to give
this is our moment to shine because we probably won't talk about Travis Kelsey again in the entire offseason.
To give credit, he was really fantastic this year. If you drafted him, he was a huge advantage. I drafted him and traded him before the season started.
Traded from Joe Mixon.
Hey, at the draft, that's a fantastic deal. That's like the 12th overall pick for the 18th overall pick or whatever it was.
Could be.
And then that's just not how it turned out. But yeah, no, he was fantastic this year. I just think
I would trade Travis Kelsey for a running back all day. You probably could have gotten more.
I tried. I tried to get more.
Yeah, it depends on the team. I think for me, there's much better uses of your first overall selection than Travis Kelsey.
Than a tight end.
Yeah, right. It's true. I think there's some
playing like a tight end premium.
There's some situations, unless you're playing a tight end premium, that changes everything. So we're just assuming that we're not. I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that play a tight end premium.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's like deep.
I do, but it's
where the benches are like 72 people.
I know people that play in them and love tight end premium, but they're all like Twitter fantasy people.
Yeah, they're like, oh my god,
they're not like normal.
You know what I did?
Football fans.
I gave an extra half point to the tight end position and made their touchdowns a little more valuable because their position wasn't scoring enough fantasy points for me.
Right. Like I feel like the average fantasy football player doesn't even know or doesn't play Dynasty, let alone tight end premium. Right.
They're like, wait,
it's like next level.
There's defensive players that you can play too.
Right. And then they're
anyway, so yeah, he obviously is ridiculous, but here's the thing. How much of a position, obviously, like 63% of the time we just gave you the most consistent, and it was like a 28, don't quote me on the math, but a 28-point difference between what Darren Waller was putting out there and what Travis Kelsey was putting out there. I don't think it's 28. I think it might be another number, but regardless, I'm not really going to.
The difference between the two players?
Yeah, 93 and 69.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to say. 93 and 69? 24? 93 and 69, yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I said 28, didn't I?
Yeah.
Frick. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, the 24 percentage point difference between the two players is obviously enough for somebody to go, wow, maybe it is that much of a positional advantage. Here's where I disagree on that. And I think if you get a quarterback or a wide receiver or a running back in the first round, like the positional advantage you get of drafting a top 3 running back and drafting a running back in the middle of the second round first and using your first total, it's huge. And that, like, you are setting yourself. Say you have a top. We
talk about this every show.
Say you have a top 5 pick and Travis Kelsey's number 5, right? And you take Travis Kelsey because you're like, I want that positional tight end advantage. And then the team before you takes Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara actually ends up being good next year with Taysom Hill, right? Okay. The positional advantage that team is going to have over you because they have Alvin Kamara is going to be massive. So drafting Travis Kelsey in the late second, early third round, you can get away with that. But drafting him for the positional advantage, I just want to give you this. He's the wide receiver 3 or 4 on the season through 17 weeks. That's great. Do you want to draft the wide receiver 3 or 4 in the first round of your fantasy football drafts?
No.
Like if I told you that
no,
who the crap is the wide receiver for
you take
this
that
year?
You know where you take that at the top of the second round.
Yeah, right. And so I don't want to take Travis Kelsey because I have other strategies in that round, but don't take Travis Kelsey in the first round. It would be honestly like taking Metcalf or Calvin Ridley with the 5th, 6th, or 7th pick.
No, yeah,
and I'm like, that's not smart. You're not getting that much of a positional advantage. It really like a positional advantage in terms of having the best tight end. Yes, but because the tight end position's only one position and it's so little when it comes to scoring.
Yep.
Like even like Travis Kelsey's numbers aren't really that. Like you look at the numbers that we did for wide receivers and it was like 20 plus points a game that those guys were getting, and that was great. That was considered a great performance. For tight ends, a great performance is 7 points. So Travis Kelsey to get over the line,
he's ridiculous.
Just needs to like, catch two passes from Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's like he really is a wide receiver, and that is essentially what his role is. And if you can get him on your team, then it's good. It's good for your team. But if you're sacrificing taking a really good wide receiver or a really good running back, then you're kind of losing focus. I can't wait to see how many teams draft Travis Kelsey in the first round and lose this year. Excited to see that.
Yeah, that's going to happen. You know it is.
Now that I ranted about Travis Kelsey for about good 7 minutes.
We can move on to Darren Waller.
Yeah, let's move on to the baller Waller.
Who was a baller.
69% of the time he finished as a tight end 1 with 7 points or more, 11 games. He had 7 games where he finished with 11 or more points, 4 games where he finished with between 6 and 11, and then he had 5 bust games. So and that's consistent. I'll tell you right now, the top tight ends on our list all have between 5 or 6 bust games, with the exception of Travis Kelsey.
For someone that owned Darren Waller, he was so frustrating this year because through the first 12 weeks of the season, he really wasn't that good. Like all of his bust games came in the first 12 weeks.
Yeah,
from weeks 13 to 17. I think he was the tight end 1. I think he was ahead of Kelsey. You want to look that up? I'm pretty sure he was the tight end 1 ahead of Kelsey. Partly because he
what are the weeks again? I'm sorry.
13 to 17.
I'm just fudging the numbers.
I'm pretty sure he was the tight end 1 in fantasy during that stretch because he was a monster.
It's good to have PPR. Sorry. He was a monster.
Look at how many points he had.
110. Travis Kelsey had 85. Yeah, smoked him.
He was ridiculous in that stretch. But if you take out that monster stretch, he was like the tight end 4 or 5, which is still decent. Yeah. But he really wasn't as good.
I think one thing that everyone's talking about is 2 years ago when we were preparing for the 2019 fantasy football season. Everyone was like, can anybody knock off the big 3? Travis Kelsey, Zach Ertz,
George Kittle,
and Kittle. Obviously, I honestly think at this point,
I love Kittle for this year though.
I love Kittle for this year.
If he falls off,
he's probably he's not going to fall off fantasy wise, but he'll probably fall down the board a little bit.
That's what I mean.
Maybe. I still think he has to be maybe 2, but I'm tempted to rank Darren Waller.
And you're not going to be alone. There's a lot of people that will, which is why I like Kittle so much. Because again, coming from someone who owned Waller, I don't want him again. that's how
frustrating he was.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Yeah, I think it's clear that the Raiders love to throw it to the tight end position.
I mean, Kittle played half the games in his last 2 weeks, and he still got
Yeah, see, that's why I'm
he was still ridiculous.
Are you in PPR? Because this 40-point game there for George Kittle is kind of making me.
No, that was not. He just had 15 catches for 183 yards.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I might have to put George Kittle too. I don't know.
But a lot of people, I've seen on Twitter that people are taking Darren Wall in the 3rd round this year, and he's the clear tight end too.
Dang.
So it's just I don't want Darren Wall. I think he'll be good again though. And by saying I don't want him, I obviously take him on my team, but I just don't want to draft him as high as he's going to go.
Yeah. Right now his ADP is hold on.
You got to go to tight
end. See, you're already roasting me.
210.
Yeah, 210.
That's way too high.
Yeah, that's very high.
It's not ahead of Kittle, but that might. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, so we use Fantasy Football Calculator for our ADP. Usually pretty good, but they have Jake Butt.
I think that's probably just a.
It's got to be a glitch.
It's just a joke. People are draft Jake Butt. Let's get him high up.
603. That's so stupid.
That is extremely dumb.
Who the crap is? Yeah, there's somebody screwing something up over here. A lot of Jakes.
Really screwed up.
Anyway, yeah. So the top 5 is fine.
Yeah.
So I think for Darren Waller, he is ridiculous, and he was pretty consistent. But there was, I think, after Travis Kelsey, you have to take the consistency aspect of it with a grain of salt, because I think what he did for those 11 games where he was a quality or great tight end in terms of fantasy points scored. You have to take those, and then you got to take your lumps too. The five bus games.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's the thing. Do you want to take a guy who has 5 games under 7 points in the second round of a fantasy draft?
No, not for a second.
Right.
That scares me a little bit, to be honest with you. And that's going to happen. I think people, because of the way Kelsey performed, I think people are going to overcompensate with the tight end position this year.
I hope so.
With everyone. Oh, I sure as hell hope so. Push guys like Cam Akers down the board for me. I like it. So we have Bob Tanyan is the third guy on this list, I believe. Yeah, Bob Tanyan. Robert Tanyan. I believe we are the only podcast out there that calls him Bob Tanyan.
That's okay.
And it's so fun to say, so that's why I will continue. And it's not Bob. Like, I'm not going to call him Bob, and I'm not going to call him Tanyan. It's got to go together. It's got to be Bob Tanyan.
Everybody calls him Robert Tanyan. It's boring.
It's so boring. Bob Tanyan. He probably is he probably gets triggered in like meetings when people call him Rogers. Rogers goes,
beat us up.
Bob. He's like, I don't want you to be called Bob.
He would jump us.
Catches 3 touchdowns the next Sunday.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway,
he's a free agent.
Robert Tanyan is a free agent. We'll talk about his like prospects in a second. But I think right now
he came out of nowhere.
He had 6 bus games, which is one more than Darren Waller did. He came out of nowhere this year. I don't even know. He didn't really come on. Let me know when you find it, what week he started breaking out. But he had 7 weeks with quality performances, which is 6.5 to 11 fantasy points, which is what you kind of want from your tight end.
Week 2.
If I get a tight end, by the way, who can get me 7 or more fantasy points just about every single week, I'm happy with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm totally fine with that. So he had 7 6.5 to 11 point games, and he had 3 11 point or more games. So he didn't have like these explosive, huge games like Waller or Kelsey. He only had a couple of them, but he was very consistent for most of the season, and he did his job for the most part. He's 63% of the time he had 6.5 points or better in a game.
Jeez, yeah, he really wasn't.
I think the snap percentage too.
Yeah, it wasn't anything to write home about, but when he got his opportunities, he played well.
Yeah.
Like in the first game of the season, like going into the year, I don't think the Packers had any use for him. He didn't get a target, barely played, and then week 2 he only got a few targets, but he scored a touchdown. And each week he got like from that point on, yeah, and then he got a 3 touchdown week in week 4. But then they stopped using him again for a little bit, and then they would use him and then wouldn't use him. So it was kind of like up and down. I think once he hit like week 10 though, they did use him a little bit more consistently. He consistently would get like 5 targets a game, and then the playoffs, I think he had. I don't know what he did against the Rams, but against
Robert
the Bucs,
Tanyan from week 10 to 17 was the tight end 4.
Yeah, and I think against the Buccaneers he had 4 catches in the NFC Championship game for a touchdown.
Yeah,
so he was kind of involved. The problem with Tanyan though, I do kind of want to know where he goes, because that if he's not with Rodgers, like that's gonna be this can be a little concerning. If he is back with the Packers though, I know I've seen a lot of people that are kind of down on him. But I don't see why if he goes back to the Packers. He is still young. He's only 26. So and he doesn't have like a ton of playing career in him. So he's got.
I take back my second round pick offer.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So he talked me out of it with his age.
He's only 26, bro.
Third round pick though. I'll give you a third round pick for Bob Tanyan.
I was saying 26 because he's young.
Oh, okay.
Not saying he's old
for a tight end.
For a tight end that has no previous playing experience. Like Travis Kelsey is how old? 31.
Fair enough.
It's kind of the same thing. Like he's coming to the league older
Kelsey
too.
Leaves.
It's only his 4th year.
Crap.
So like at this point, I think Tanyan's in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be good, but he's got to stay with the Packers, unless he goes to like a perfect situation, which I don't know where that would be.
Take this ADP with a grain of salt, but Bob Tanyan ain't even on this list.
That ADP is weird though.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go off this ADP. I really want to, but I can't.
Like, why is Tyler Higbee and all those guys?
Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think he's. It's so hard because you really don't know where he's going to play next year. He was good this year, but is that going to continue? I think it will if he's with the Packers. Do you like him? I'm trying to think of teams that might add a tight end. Jaguars?
Anywhere but the Packers, I really don't like him.
Patriots? I don't know.
With Cam Newton as the quarterback?
Yeah, good. Unless a team like he'll sign with a team and we're just like, oh, that's actually not bad.
Yeah.
But chances are it's not going to be the case.
Another guy basically mirroring what Bob Tanyan did was TJ Hawkinson.
The Hawk, baby.
Now, I had Hawk, and he was the least frustrating player least frustrating player that I've ever seen.
Opposite of Waller.
He was frustrating in the aspect that he didn't have those big Travis Kelsey, big, Darren Waller games. You know what I mean? Where he had like 20, 30
the best he had was
points.
16.
Yeah, so the best he had was like 16, and he had 10 7-point or more games. He was very, very consistent, but all of those games, generally speaking, came when he had 7 to 11 fantasy points, 8 of those games, so 50% of the time.
Yep.
Then he had 2 11-point or more games, and then he busted 6 times. Mm-hmm. And so I think for Hawk, he was very consistent. I don't know what he's going to look like in this new look.
Does Jared Goff
Detroit Lions? I don't know. It really depends on the offensive system.
Do you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Jared Goff. Does Jared Goff scare you off?
Stop it. So bad. But TJ, so TJ Hawkinson, I love him. I think he should be a great tight end in the NFL, really.
Yeah, no, he's one of those players that I hope the talent overcomes the situation, which is crossing your fingers a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not like Jared Goff is the worst quarterback in the league, though. Like, I think he'll still get looks this year, and he played very well. I mean, other than like you said, he didn't have those monster games, but he was consistent. He was a consistently solid for a second-year player at the tight end position. That is pretty good, and he's entering year 3. It should be a jump year for him. There's a chance that Kenny Galladay's gone or Marvin Jones are gone. They're not. I don't think they're bringing back both those players.
And they get Hawk.
They might have even more targets to go around this year in Detroit. Like he could be a target hog for the Lions. It's just like how much of them are going to be catchable.
Yeah, I think actually he would be good with Jared Goff, to be honest with you.
Really? Okay.
I don't. Yeah, because that's his bread and butter right there. Those short, intermediate.
That is true, but he usually doesn't like. He kind of likes tight ends, I guess.
Yeah. So the final guy that we have, this is a weird one. This is a strange reality, and I want to see what Rick pulls up for the numbers here on Sleeper, because we have Jared Cook. Jared Cook as the number 5 guy on this list in terms of consistency. Now, he didn't finish, I don't think, anywhere near that in terms of where his season totals were.
Ugh.
Jared Cook was like tight end 17.
You know what's funny with Jared Cook?
Fell off a cliff.
I don't know how he's even on this. Oh, I know why.
So he had 60% of the time he was a 7 points or more tight end. He finished 9 times on the season with 7 points or more. 2 of them he had 11 points or more in a game, and then 7 of them he had 6.5. I'm gonna guess that it was either 6.5 or 7.
Yeah,
so
he had 2
bases.
He had 2 games with 9. What I will say about Jared Cook, he had a stretch where he was so bad.
Yeah, he was.
He played in these games. Yeah. These games he's not injured in these games. 2-0-1-0, 4-game stretch.
Yep.
To be
was that
fair,
the Taysom Hill games?
2 of them were Taysom Hill. Yes.
Okay.
So that shows you how good he could be this year.
Yeah.
If he stays with the Saints, which I think he's a free agent. I was gonna look that up.
Maybe doesn't really matter. I don't.
The
think
reason he's even on this list is because he ended the season pretty well. He had 11, 12, 4, and then 11, 14.
But Jared Cook being here, because a lot of you probably looked at Jared Cook and was like,
he's a bum.
I don't know of a team that probably held on to him the whole season and was like, I remember during the season, I was like, oh, pick up Jared Cook. He might catch a touchdown for you.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
True. I remember
but he had 60% of the time as a quality tight end. That's crazy. I think for me moving forward with Jared Cook, we don't know if he's going to be with New Orleans.
He is under contract, but
even if he goes, he's under contract. Is that what you said? So if he's in New Orleans, I don't want him.
Okay, well, so this says he's an unrestricted free agent, but the website I had So that so he is a free agent, but the website I was just looking at said he was under contract for 2021. So I don't know. I'm assuming he's a free agent because I'm going to trust the articles more than the website.
I don't even know if he's going to have a team, and he's not draftable.
He'll have a team, but it's going to be like Greg Olsen signing with the Seahawks.
Yeah. Yep.
He's not going to get any.
Exactly. So it was the last hurrah for Jared Cook, and if you played him for a lot of those weeks, congratulations, you've won. But outside of that, I don't think he's that great.
Yeah.
Did I add an honorable mention?
I don't think you did.
Oh, Mark Andrews.
Oh, there you go. He
Mark
was kind of
Andrews,
disappointing.
50% of the time finished as a quality. Well, didn't we say that Mark Andrews was going to be a bust?
We did. I was very high on that train.
Yeah, there was some people.
I was big anti Mark Andrews, and I got hate for that one.
There was a guy in the fantasy community I listened to and trust, and they were pumping up Mark Andrews, and I was like, held me up a second, made some really valid points, but I don't think his snap percentages changed all that much from the previous year, which is what the concern was.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean he has 7 busts. Most of the guys that we've talked about today, he had 2 quality games, and then he had 5 11-point or more games. So when he played well, he played really well, but when he was bad, he was just really bad.
Right, exactly. Just while I'm looking at this list, because we're probably not going to talk about this player ever, someone who could be sneaky good next year, OJ Howard. Brady loves his tight ends. He was targeting him a lot, remember, in the beginning of the season before he got injured.
He got hurt.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Keep an eye.
He's like I'm gonna buy him low. I'm like, okay. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I mean
OJ Howard.
For 1 year probably too.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. We got some interesting stuff to talk about next week, but we'll talk to you on Tuesday, my friends.
We'll see you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.